My name is Maximiliane, and I'm very excited to present our paper today. I did this work together with my co-authors, Scheidle, Ceenu, and Sven. So this work was motivated by current trends that go towards connected social environments, mixed reality, and the metaverse, by linking many services and worlds together. We have actually seen a similar trend in the early days of the internet when hyperlinking was introduced. However, this came with several severe security issues. And for this reason, today we have these. These are security indicators we have on the web. Now the big question arises, how can we integrate such security features right from the beginning into the metaverse and not just as an afterthought? For this reason, we investigated the following two research questions. So first, before being able to implement security indicators at all, we first need to understand what they can look like. For this reason, we asked, what are the general design dimensions for security indicators in the metaverse? And once we created an initial design space, we also wanted to find out which indicators perform best regarding several measurements. And for this reason, we asked in our second to fifth research questions, which security indicators are the most effective, usable, have the best notification qualities, and which would participants generally like to use in their daily VR experience. To investigate our research questions, we conducted two studies. So we first conducted expert interviews with 8 domain experts from security and VR domain. And based on their insights, we created a design space. Next, to find out which perform best, we conducted a lab study with users, and this whole process resulted in a set of evaluated security indicators. I will now go through these steps in a bit more detail. So as I just said, we first conducted expert interviews. And for this, we recruited 8 participants with at least 3 years of experience with VR and security. We started off the interviews by presenting several established indicators from mostly web and mobile environments and established ways of attracting user attention in VR. This was followed by in-depth discussion of novel indicators for VR, where we focused on the different parameters, form factors, and functionalities. We recorded and transcribed all interviews and analyzed them with thematic analysis. Based on our insights, we created this design space, which has 5 layers: modality, timing, placement, visual representation, and alert pattern. So in contrast to traditional environments, we now have new possibilities that were suggested by our experts, such as using, for example, haptic indicators, displaying an indicator directly on the user, so not being restricted to the traditional screen, using 3D shapes, or breaking the immersion as a way to attract the user's attention. Next, we had to select several indicators we wanted to test in our lab study. And for this, we had mainly 2 key considerations in mind. So we first selected those indicators that were most frequently suggested by our experts. And we took some additional design considerations into account. So our most important key consideration here was not to restrict the designer's freedom too much. So we didn't want to occupy more than one sense at a time. So for example, using a haptic and an audio indicator, or using a visual and a haptic indicator. So we use only one modality at a time. And we also refrained, except for one indicator, from placing them directly in the 3D environment. Moreover, we also wanted to explore each modality that was suggested by our experts at least once. So these considerations resulted in the following 5 indicators. We used one haptic indicator that played an unpleasant beep tone in the case of insecure connections and remained silent when a connection was secure. This is similar to the real world, where we also only hear siren sounds in case of immediate danger. Then we had one haptic indicator that simulated a heart rate pattern. So insecure connections were indicated by using an elevated heart rate pattern, and secure connections by a very calm heart rate pattern. The remaining 3 indicators were all visual indicators, where we displayed insecure connections with circular red shapes and secure connections with square green shapes. Then we had one blinking indicator that was placed in the user's periphery, one static indicator placed in the user's periphery, and one static indicator placed directly above the portal, so in the 3D environment. So one challenge of our paper and our study was to come up with a suitable study setup to test the security indicators, as we had to simulate security-relevant decisions in VR. And at best, a security-relevant decision in VR where it is not a primary task, but a secondary task, because this is similar how it is done in the real world. We all know that security decisions are mostly not the primary focus of a user. So for that, we designed a Maze VR game where the users were supposed to find the exit as quickly as possible and with as many points as possible. We designed 5 different but similar mazes and distributed 4 secure and 4 insecure portals across each. You can see a screenshot of those mazes here. The portals are visualized via the circular shapes, and the exits and entrances are marked in red and green. Even though we were careful to make the mazes similar in difficulty, we randomly paired indicators and mazes to prevent biases. The portals were also inside the wall, so users could walk past them and were not forced to use them. However, the portals teleported the participants closer to the exit, so they were actually motivated to also use them. Participants started with 100 points and received 10 points for taking a secure connection and lost 10 points for taking an insecure portal. As our participants knew that they were in a study setting without real danger, we needed a well enough simulation of negative consequences for choosing an insecure connection. That is why we deducted points when participant chose an insecure portal. And the timer was a constant reminder not to lose too much time at the portals, similar to how security decisions are usually not given too much time in the real world. Let's now have a look at our results. So we first look at the effectiveness, which in our case consists of the task completion time and the error rate, which is the ratio of insecure portals taken by our participants. As we can see, our participant made the most errors with the haptic indicator and the least errors with the visual periphery blinking one. And also they were fastest with the blinking indicator and slowest with the haptic one. In terms of user experience, so we used the user experience questionnaire for that, we only found significant differences in terms of attractiveness and found that participants found the visual static indicator significantly more attractive than the haptic indicator. In terms of the notification quality, we found that our participants perceived the visual static indicator significantly less intrusive than the audio and haptic indicator, and our participants perceived the audio indicator significantly more disturbing than all other indicators, and the haptic indicator more disturbing than the visual static indicator. In terms of the noticeability, we did not find any significant differences. And lastly, in terms of understandability, our participants found the audio indicator significantly less understandable than all visual indicators, and the haptic indicator significantly less understandable than the visual static, visual peripheral static, and audio indicator. So finally, we also have a look at the overall user preference. So here we asked which indicator our participants would like to use in their daily VR experience. And here we found that the visual static indicator was overall preferred by our participants. So now let's have a look at the key takeaways. First is our participants found the visual indicators to be non-intrusive and understandable, and as they also on average performed best regarding the performance, we suggest to use those for frequent messages and interactions, for example, when requesting permissions. Second, the properties of the haptic indicator that led to it not being perceived so well in our study could also be used as an advantage. So for example, to attract the user's attention in case of immediate danger or when action is necessary. The right indicator in the right situation might help to balance the user's attention. So while the static indicator might be most suitable for relaxed tasks where immediate action is mostly not necessary, the blinking visual indicator in the periphery may be a better design direction for tasks where immediate action and reaction is vital. This might also help to reduce the effect on task resumption lag. And lastly, since the audio indicator performed rather poorly in our study, which we, by the way, also ascribed to the way we implemented it, so we used a very unpleasant beep tone for that, we suggest to use audio mainly as a complementary modality, as this will probably also help to make it more understandable by making it possible to ascribe it to the virtual environment. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm now happy to take questions.